Discover the incredible journey. How brave cowboys overcame 2,500 miles of danger and deception. Tyler stood on the porched edge of his family's ranch, dust swirling like whispers around him. The sun, a harsh glare in the Texas sky, matched the turmoil raging within. Just 21, he now felt the weight of a legacy heavy on his shoulders. His father's unexpected death echoed in his heart. The ranch, their history, was now under threat from corporate land grabbers. Every sunrise seemed to shout at him to act before it all vanished. With determination boiling in his chest, Tyler tightened his grip on the fraying rope of his dreams. Should he ride the 2,500 miles to the Land Rights Bureau, advocating for a home that embodied his family's love and hard work? Doubts crept in, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. What if he failed? What if the battle for honor cost him everything? He wrestled these heavy thoughts as if he stood at the bottom of a dark well, yearning for the last remnants of light. Before he could lose himself in those fears, he decided. Gathering his gear, Tyler set out into the wild expanse, his heart hammering like a stubborn horse against the reins of fate. On the winding trail westward, he encountered a wise old rancher who regaled him with stories of grit and resilience, igniting a flicker of hope in Tyler's weary soul. But even as he absorbed this wisdom, specters of grief and uncertainty followed, reminding him that time is not on his side. He then met a spirited widow, her laughter a defiance against the heavy breaths of mourning. She spoke of strength, asking Tyler to question societal restraints that sought to bind them both. "You aren't just fighting for land," she declared, her eyes sharp like a hawk. "You're protecting a legacy." Fleeting moments of camaraderie filled his heart, yet shadows loomed larger. A rival cowboy, who accompanied them under the guise of aiding their journey, remained shrouded in secrecy. Tyler sensed there was more to this stranger than met the eye. Would this man be friend or foe? As they pushed forward, the obstacles intensified. Encountering unscrupulous businessmen lurking like coyotes, they faced each instance of treachery as a test. Tyler needed to navigate not just the harsh terrain, but also the tempest of personal demons threatening to surface in him and his new companions. With every challenge, their bonds grew stronger, yet cracks began to form under pressure, and he sensed their fragile unity teetering dangerously. Then it happened. The moment of betrayal hovered on the horizon like a storm cloud. Tyler discovered that the rival cowboy he had allowed into their midst had been feeding crucial information to their enemies. A swell of anger surged through him, a twisted knot of loyalty and justice tightening in his chest. Confronting this truth would fracture what they had built, but hiding it could cost them the fight. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With uncertainty clawing at him like a starving beast, Tyler felt the ground shake beneath his feet as destiny neared its reckoning. Heart racing, he stood at the brink, the truth prickling at the tip of his tongue, while darkness threatened to swallow the light of loyalty. This journey was not merely about saving a ranch. It had morphed into a crucible that would reshape him into the very essence of a cowboy, challenging his beliefs and forging his understanding of honor. And just as he opened his mouth to reveal the betrayal, the rumble beneath shifted the world, leaving only a breathless silence in its wake. Tyler's breath caught in his throat as the silence enveloped him, a heavy shroud that pressed against his chest. He had glimpsed the truth, the jagged edges of betrayal tightening around him like a noose, but the realization that he stood before this defining moment gripped him in a way he had never felt. This was more than the fight for land. It was the crucible in which his very identity was forged, and he was drowning in indecision. He could feel the weight of his companions' eyes on him, their silent hope resting squarely on his shoulders. The widow's spirited laughter still danced in the back of his mind, a reminder that strength could emerge even from the ashes of despair. Yet here he was, on the precipice. What did he really stand for? Loyalty to a group built on shared hardships, or the truth that could shatter that bond like crystal underfoot? As the sun dipped low on the horizon, bathing the ground in an orange glow, Tyler's thoughts collided, a storm of logic and emotion battling for dominance. Confronting the cowboy meant risking the fragile alliances he had painstakingly formed. Would the widow and the old rancher support him when they learned he had allowed such treachery to exist right beside them? Or would they see him as weak, unworthy of carrying the name of a cowboy? An impulsive decision snapped through him, the kind that could lead to disastrous consequences or a leap towards authenticity. "We need to talk," he said forcefully, surprising even himself. The words thrummed through the silence like a gunshot in the stillness of night. The rival cowboy turned, an inscrutable expression shadowing his face, and as the others approached, the weight of the moment turned palpably heavy. Tyler squared his shoulders, drawing on everything he'd learned on this journey, the words of the wise rancher, the widow's fierce independence, and the stories of generations of cowboys who fought for more than land. He was fighting for respect, for truth, for the legacy of his father. "Your games are over," he declared, words now spilling forth with a courage that had been waiting to be unleashed. "I know you've been working against us. We can no longer afford your half-truths." As he spoke, an ember of aggressive determination lit in his chest. He felt a shift within, a power awakening, hand in hand with the realization that integrity must be his guide. Instead of the expected anger, the rival's lips curled into a smirk, and Tyler felt the knot of fear tighten anew. "You think you can expose me? You have no idea how deep this goes," he retorted, eyes gleaming with malice. The confrontation spiraled into a whispering chaos, but Tyler's heart steadied. The truth hung in the air like a loaded gun. Just as uncertainty loomed to crush him, a rush of clarity surged through his veins. Should he fight, fully understanding that doing so could split their group wide open? Or should he retreat, preserving fragile relationships yet risking everything he deemed valuable? The trembling resolve in Tyler's belly powered his choice, and he took a deliberate step forward, ready to dig deeper into this challenge. The quiet confidence he had unearthed began to weave itself into his demeanor, crafting a stronger version of himself, someone who confronted what was right, exposing darkness for the sake of light. But this was not just a personal battle. As emotions spiraled out of control, he realized the rivals' machinations could quickly endanger the support network they had built. He needed to act strategically, fostering unity instead of fear within his group and solidifying the bond that had carried them this far. With the sun slipping beneath the horizon, Tyler took a deep breath and made his choice. The time had come to face truths far deeper than betrayal. His journey toward the Land Rights Bureau would not only determine the fate of the ranch but also forge the essence of who he was destined to become. In this moment of confrontation, he understood that the cost of his journey might very well be the catalyst for his transformation. As he prepared to dig into the heart of the betrayal, the smell of dust and determination filled the air, but shadows lurked closely, lingering threats still whispering on the wind. Would he be able to unify his companions, drawing on their strengths, or would the rival cowboy maneuver them toward division? Time was ticking, and with each moment, he felt destiny whispering urges of courage and conviction. Tyler's heart raced as the rival cowboy's smirk morphed into a mask of false confidence. Doubt threatened to choke him as he sensed the underlying darkness in this confrontation. But beneath the surface laid an untapped reservoir of conviction that surged through every nerve. "In the end, we will expose the truth," Tyler said, more to himself than to anyone else. His words served as both a promise and a challenge. He couldn't let fear anchor him in place. This was his chance to step into the role of the leader he aspired to be. The rival might underestimate him, but those who believed in him wouldn't. The tension in the group shifted as the widow and the old rancher circled in closer, sensing the charged air. Tyler caught their anxious glances, uncertain, but hopeful. He took a deep breath, the dust swirling around him intertwined with the warmth of the setting sun. This was it. He needed to turn the tide not just for himself, but for them all. "Listen," he began, his voice steadier now, each word heavy with purpose. "We cannot allow deceit to fester. It threatens everything we've worked for. If I'm wrong, if I've misread the move of the rival, let us gather together and confront it as a united force. The old rancher's eyebrows knit together, skepticism etched on his weathered face. You think unity comes from calling out a man like him? He could rip us apart before we even start our fight. Tyler met his gaze, feeling the challenge pulse between them. The rancher's age bore wisdom that had carried decades of struggle, but age could also cloud vision. If we stay quiet about this, we invite discord, not just among ourselves but from those seeking to take advantage of our weakness. He could almost see the old man's gears turning, considering his words. The widow stepped forward then, her expression fierce and determined, a spark lit by his argument. I've lost too much to sit back now, Tyler. If you believe in this, I will stand with you. Her resolve ignited a flicker of bravery within him, softening the ice of fear that had begun to solidify around his heart. What's the plan, then? The rancher finally asked, the shadow of doubt still lurking but now softened by curiosity. First, we need proof, Tyler replied, thinking on his feet. We'll gather everything we can, conversations, any leads that connect him to the sabotage. Then we present our findings to the Land Rights Bureau without the uncertainty of mere accusations. As he spoke, Tyler's thoughts churned with the logistics, strategizing the delicate task of unveiling the rival's manipulation while fortifying their alliance. It was crucial to maintain his integrity in the eyes of his companions, all while stepping cautiously into this wild confrontation. The jungle of betrayal would require deft navigation. Just then, a low voice interrupted his reverie. And if he finds out what you're planning? It was a question that sent a shiver down his spine. Tyler's gut told him that the rival would strike back. The threat of retaliation loomed over them like a storm cloud. Then we'll face him together. I won't let fear dictate our moves. We stand as a front united, ready for the fallout. The resolute tone in his voice quieted the doubts, igniting a new sense of purpose among them. As they formed a circle, it was as if they were reforging the very essence of their commitment to each other. A dream unfurling from the heart of despair. But beneath the energy of solidarity lay unspoken, unresolved tensions, tiny fissures threatening to unravel their newfound resolve. How much longer could they sustain this unity? Tyler couldn't shake the feeling that their little band of companions was teetering on the edge of fracture, and they hadn't even begun to unearth the rival's full extent of deception. As darkness fell around them, Tyler knew it would take more than hope to chart a course through these murky waters. He had to transform that hope into tangible action. It would be a race against time, for the rival was already plotting his next move. One step closer to the truth, but were they truly prepared for what lurked in the shadows? Tyler could feel the weight of his own words hanging in the air, their determination mingling with the encroaching darkness of the night. As they stood in their tight circle, he could sense that beneath the shared conviction, tension pulsed. Each member harbored their own apprehensions. His thoughts raced. Could they really withstand this trial together? Would they turn against one another in the face of danger? The uncertainty was gnawing at him. Let us meet at dawn, he said, breaking the silence. We'll divide our tasks tonight. Each of us needs to gather what we can without raising suspicion. We'll reconvene to share what we've uncovered. He paused, watching their faces closely, hoping for affirmation. The widow nodded firmly, her features resolute. The old rancher, however, still harbored skepticism. There's a fine line between courage and recklessness, Tyler. If you insist on pursuing this, you better be prepared for anything. This ain't just a game of cards. Trust me, if it comes down to it, I'll make sure we're prepared, Tyler replied, masking the tremor in his voice with resolve. Deep inside, he was questioning whether he truly could safeguard them from the looming threat. It was easy to rally them with passionate words, but executing a plan required a depth of commitment he was yet to tap into. After they parted ways, he felt the chill of the night seep into his bones. Alone on the path back to his cabin, doubts encroached. How would he know what to do if betrayal surfaced within their ranks? Tyler didn't want to imagine conflict straining the fragile alliance they had just formed. The rivalry was a known entity, but betrayal might hide in plain sight. His own confidence was a gamble. Once home, Tyler settled at his desk, determined to strategize. He pulled out a worn notebook, pages filled with ideas and plans, a testament to his burgeoning leadership skills. Ideas fragmented, shifting like shadows as he wrote bullet points outlining their goals. Gather evidence, confront the rival, protect the group. Each point weighed heavy with undefined implications. What if they unearthed more than they bargained for? As he chewed over the potential consequences, something drew his attention to the creaking floorboard beneath. Deep breaths steadied him, grounding him in the moment. He couldn't afford hesitation. In that solitude, he recognized a spark of clarity, the realization that perhaps this was not just about the rival's menace, but about discovering his capacity to lead. Each decision molded him, crafting the armor needed against the storms ahead. Despite the doubt swirling inside him, he felt the stirrings of resilience. Just as this thought cemented itself, a loud crash echoed from outside, startling him out of his reverie. Heart pounding, he rushed to the window, peering out to catch a glimpse of movement in the shadows. The moon cast eerie shapes, but there was no clear sign of trouble, only the wild, unyielding landscape that held secrets he dared not unravel. Was the rival testing his resolve? Anxiety clenched around his gut, yet he recognized the intensity charging through him. It ignited a fierce determination he had never before felt. This opponent was cunning, and to outsmart him, Tyler needed to think not just strategically, but also unpredictably. He would have to adapt, to be fluid as the situation dictated. In the stillness that followed, Tyler broke free from paralysis, a plan crystallizing in his mind. He would need to dig deeper, uncovering potential alliances, identifying who among the others might possess talents or resources that could aid their quest. He would seek out the widow, find her hidden strengths, rally their collective skills. Before he could rein in the torrent of thoughts, he had a sudden impulse. A visit to Old Man Wilkes, the local tracker, might prove beneficial. He was shrewd and had knowledge of the land, a network honed over years that could provide insights. Knowledge was power, and they needed an edge. As dawn's light would break, it would lead them to confront the realities of their fight. Tyler wrote Old Man Wilkes's name in bold letters, a symbol of the next move in this multi-layered game. Determination surged as he prepared to act, but before he could rest, another thought flickered, a challenge mixed with thrill. Could he keep the group together amid the brewing chaos? Would they turn from allies to adversaries at the moment it mattered most? In this unforgiving landscape of loyalty and fear, the line would soon blur. The day was approaching when Tyler would have to confront not just the rival outside but the discord brewing within. The moment for action was drawing near, and the stakes could not be higher. Would he succeed in weaponizing unity against division, or would their bond splinter in the pressure of self-preservation? The answers lurked just beyond the horizon. The first light of dawn crept hesitantly over the horizon, casting a soft glow across the ranch. Tyler felt the cold bite of morning air against his skin, invigorating him with an urgency that refused to be ignored. His heart raced not from fear, but from a dynamic mix of anticipation and responsibility. Today wasn't just another day. It marked the beginning of their reckoning. He had spent the night sketching plans, mapping out potential strategies to not only face their rivals, but also safeguard the trust of his newfound allies. Each note, every line, represented not just tactical ideas, but a commitment to fostering cooperation in the face of undeniable pressure. He recognized the weight of leadership could be stifling, but he yearned to transform that burden into a source of empowerment, not just for himself but for those relying on him. After hastily finishing a cup of coffee, Tyler steeled himself and stepped outside. The ranch lay before him, an expanse filled with opportunities and threats alike. The widow was already waiting by the barn, her figure outlined against the dawn's light. There was a strength about her that Tyler admired. He approached her, searching for the right words to build a bridge for their teamwork. "Good morning. How are you feeling?" he asked, attempting to establish a tone of camaraderie. "Ready as I'll ever be, but this isn't just about gathering evidence, Tyler. We need to understand what we're up against," she replied, her gaze steady and focused on him. Exactly. And that's why I thought we could consult Old Man Wilkes first. Between the two of us, we might be able to make sense of the landscape both literally and figuratively, he said, hoping his suggestion would resonate. The widow nodded, her resolve inspiring more confidence in Tyler. They walked toward the meeting point, their pace quickening with purpose, every step behind them a testament to their commitment to each other. Yet Tyler's mind buzzed with apprehension. It was becoming clear that the rivalry wasn't just an external battle. It was weaving into the fabric of their group. The uncertainty of loyalty, of hidden motives, clawed at his mind. Were there tensions he had yet to reveal? Could they truly unify when doubt hung in the air? As they approached Old Man Wilkes' cabin, Tyler felt a tightening within. Their conversation with the season tracker would be crucial, but he knew it could also expose the weaknesses within his plan or himself. Would the old man's insights fortify their resolve or amplify the fears lurking in their hearts? Tyler, the widow paused just before the door, casting him a sidelong glance. Whatever knowledge we gather today, we have to remain steadfast. Trust isn't given freely. It's earned. Her words echoed in his mind, reverberating through the chambers of his doubts and desires. It dawned on him that this gathering was about more than just strategy. It required a clarity of purpose, an understanding of the alliances that could either solidify or crumble under pressure. He had to navigate both layers of the conflict. With affirming resolve, Tyler stepped onto the porch and rapped on the door. Each knock felt like a heartbeat, each second pregnant with possibility. Old Man Wilkes answered, surprise melting into a guarded smile. "What brings you lot to my doorstep at this hour?" he asked, his voice raspy yet strong. "We need your help," Tyler said, the words flowing out with strength he didn't entirely feel. "It's time we confront those who threaten us." Wilkes measured him with a discerning gaze before stepping aside. Tyler and the widow exchanged a glance, the flicker of shared determination inflating the space between them. As they entered the cabin, Tyler felt a surge of hope mixed with the remnant of doubt. There was no turning back. Their course had been set. But each choice held deeper implications not just for today, but for the bond they were forging. With the scent of aged wood and leather enveloping them like a protective cloak, Tyler wondered, could the wisdom of the old tracker map out more than just their external threat? Might it unravel the intricacies of trust and loyalty that were rapidly weaving into the threads of their lives? He would soon find out. The day lay before them, brimming with revelations and challenges. The journey was just beginning, and its potential to redefine him and them could alter the fabric of their lives forever. The cabin's interior was cluttered yet cozy, displaying a lifetime of experiences etched into every piece of wood and leather. As Tyler settled into an old chair across from Old Man Wilkes, he felt the weight of anticipation and a growing sense of urgency. Every corner of the room, filled with maps and faded photographs, seemed to echo the stories of past conflicts, echoes of wisdom waiting to be unveiled. "Well, let us get to it," Wilkes said, his casual tone masking a sharp mind. "What do you want to know?" Tyler's throat felt dry. He knew this was the moment where clarity and direction would either solidify their plans or plunge them deeper into uncertainty. "We need to understand our enemies," he said carefully, keeping his eyes locked on the old man's. "Not just their tactics, but their motivations. What drives them?" Wilkes leaned back, fingers steepled beneath his chin, pondering. Motivations can be tricky. Fear, greed, vengeance, those traits weave through human nature. But so does desperation. You see, sometimes the most dangerous opponents are those who have nothing to lose. The man's words struck something deep within Tyler. It wasn't just a matter of strategy. It was about human psychology, understanding the very essence of conflict. He could almost sense walls around himself, his insecurities rising as doubts flickered behind his thoughts. Had he truly grasped the depth of desperation that could fuel their opponents? If victory led to personal losses for others, what would that make him? The widow's voice broke through his reverie, interjecting with a point he had overlooked. "We need to gather information, something concrete." "Old Man Wilkes, what do you know about their dealings?" Wilkes nodded and rose, retrieving an old, crumpled map from a stack nearby. He unfurled it on the table, revealing trails, landmarks, and notes scribbled in the margins. This here shows their territory, but it's not just geography. It's their heart, the pulse of their operations. You're facing a well-organized group, not mere thugs. They've infiltrated this land's veins, he said, his finger tracing the outlines of territories with grave intensity. Tyler leaned closer, absorbing the details. A realization began to dawn on him. They needed more than just strategies. They needed allies, those familiar with this landscape, whose insights could further guide their fight. What about the others? Do you have contacts who could help? He pressed, a sense of urgency sharpening his focus. Wilkes nodded slowly, weighing each word. There are those who've tangled with them before, some still harbor grudges. Use that. They've been running from their ghosts, but fear is a palatable source. Approach them not as enemies, but as a potential team. You'll need that. Tyler felt the thrill of strategy, an intoxicating mix of hope and responsibility. Then, a flicker of doubt crept in, threatening to dull the clarity he'd just gained. This wouldn't be easy. How could he approach people tainted by bitterness and mistrust? As if sensing his conflicted thoughts, the widow placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. We'll face it together. The strong growth of alliances comes from mutual need, she said, her conviction powerful yet reassuring. Remember, trust is fragile, but it can be built through common goals and clearer enemies. Wilkes added, his voice emphatic. Create a story they can believe in. Show them a cause worth standing up for. Tyler's resolve solidified. Clarity was key. He could feel the pulse of responsibility, an electrifying current that begged for action. Each choice held weight. Could he forge the necessary bonds, and more importantly, could he confront his own growing apprehensions? Thank you, Wilkes. We need to get to it, Tyler replied, his determination sharpening like a knife's edge. As they left the cabin, the chill of morning air felt invigorating against Tyler's skin. The path ahead was mountainous, laden with steep climbs and potential pitfalls, but the spark of action ignited within him. But with allies yet to be convinced, the question loomed larger than ever. Would Tyler find the strength to confront not just the external threats but also the shadows of doubt that lingered inside? The moment of truth hung in the air, waiting. And as they descended toward the horizon, the terrain ahead shifted, mirroring the turbulence in Tyler's heart, an unmistakable reminder that while they were forging alliances, the true test of strength was yet to come. What awaited him would lead to revelations that could redefine not just his mission, but his very essence. With every step, he questioned if he was truly ready to face the challenges ahead. The rustle of leaves and the crisp snap of twigs underfoot accompanied Tyler as he moved farther away from the cabin, the weight of new knowledge pressing heavily upon his shoulders. Instead of feeling weighed down, he sensed a new form of clarity emerging within as he prepared to forge connections on this uncertain path. Each breath filled him with a mix of enthusiasm and the sharp sting of anxiety. He had to confront not just the prospects of danger ahead, but also the shadows lurking in his own mind. Who do we reach out to first? The widow asked, her eyes scanning the terrain ahead. Tyler inhaled deeply, steadying himself. He understood that the first interaction could set the tone for all future alliances. The old miners, he said, thinking back to Wilkes' words. They've seen the worst of this land's conflicts and survived long enough to hold valuable grudges. He paused, recalling the stories of men who had fought tooth and nail not just against external forces but against their own fears. Could he align himself with them? Would they even want to listen? He began walking, the rhythm of his feet echoing the pounding of his heart, each step grounding his resolve. Arriving at the mining settlement felt surreal. The town seemed shackled in an air of ghosts, shadows of once bustling lives tethered by bitterness and distrust. The wooden structures were battered and peeling, yet they held history, tales of survival. Tyler knew he first had to present himself not as a leader but as a potential ally, someone who understood the cost of conflict. His instincts kicked in as he approached a small group gathered by what used to be a general store. They were grizzled men, faces worn from the elements and burdens of past grievances. Tyler cleared his throat, each second stretching before him as he sought the right words. I'm Tyler, and I've come to ask for your help against a common enemy. This land belongs to us, but I fear it's slipping from our grasp. The men eyed him skeptically, silence cloaking the air like a thick fog. Doubt crept into Tyler's mind. Had he misjudged their willingness to unite? He felt the swirling conflict intensifying within, his heart racing with urgency. Before he could retreat into self-doubt, the widow's gentle voice, a whisper of reassurance, urged him forward. We're standing against threats that disregard what this community has endured. You've stood your ground before. Now is the time to share your stories, she said, turning to the men with authenticity shining in her gaze. Tyler took a bold step forward, eyes blazing with conviction. You've fought hard battles, he continued, feeling the energy shift ever so slightly. You know the cost of fear. Let us fight for something more than survival. Let us fight for a future worth living in, a place that honors our sacrifices. As he spoke, he noticed how some faces softened, hesitations crumbling incrementally. Could it be that the men before him were merely searching for a fresh narrative, something to restore their faith? The thought surged through his mind, igniting a flicker of hope. Why should we trust you? One grizzled man finally interjected, skepticism anchored in each syllable. His question pierced through, a direct challenge. Tyler's thoughts raced as he faced the dual turmoil of the external and internal. He opened his mouth, words tumbling out with raw honesty. Because I understand loss. I understand your fights. We're not mere pawns in someone else's game. We have to reclaim our power together. The moment hung in heavy silence, charged with unspoken histories and emotions. Doubt still lurked, but something had shifted. A few men began murmuring amongst each other, faces hinting at a potential thawing of their icy resolve. Tyler's heart hammered with mounting anticipation. Perhaps he was beginning to find his voice, his purpose. But their acceptance did not guarantee easy sailing. As he glanced around, a realization gripped him. The true challenge didn't merely lie in persuading them, it resided in maintaining the trust that was only just beginning to bloom. Would they withstand the trials ahead, or would old biases resurface to haunt them? As the group began to disperse, Tyler felt another dark shadow creeping in. This fragile moment of connection could shatter at any word misplaced. He had faced external threats, yet now he faced an equally daunting internal struggle. Could he sustain authenticity amidst hesitation and resistance, ensuring that trust did not slip through his fingers? His pulse quickened, realization dawning. This is merely the beginning, and more tests awaited him in the shadows of mistrust. The stakes were mounting, and he had to muster a strategy that went beyond mere words. What would be his next move to solidify their fragile trust? And could he present a vision compelling enough to break down the barriers built from years of resentment? Tyler stood amidst the whispering remnants of a once thriving settlement, fervently aware that fragile alliances were like seedlings in a harsh climate, vulnerable yet capable of growth if nurtured correctly. The group of miners had scattered, but their expressions lingered in his mind, their skepticism etched deeply into each furrow of their weathered faces. Trust would not come easily, this he recognized. It demanded meticulous strategy and authentic engagement. He moved towards a dilapidated structure that hadn't succumbed to rot yet, perhaps symbolizing the resilience he desperately needed to adopt. Inside, the air tasted of dust and neglect, with cobwebs clinging like forgotten memories. The widow followed close behind, her presence a grounding force. What's next? She inquired softly. He pondered her question, feeling the urgency of the moment. We need a plan, he replied, his voice steadying as he spoke the words aloud. I'll need to gather insights about what they value most. If I can help identify a common cause, something that resonates with their experiences, perhaps I can solidify our connection. Drawing from his own past experiences, he recalled how alliances were forged in turmoil. The bridge between him and the miners rested on understanding their grievances. He would have to listen, curate their stories, and in turn hone his pitch to speak directly to their wounds. He felt a fierce determination building, This was not merely survival, it was a reclamation of identity. "Let us set up a gathering," Tyler said, the idea blooming as he voiced it. A chance for them to share their own stories within a controlled space. If they can see their frustrations reflected in each other, they might find the strength to unite under a common goal. As the widow nodded her agreement, he took a deep breath, imagining the possibilities that lay ahead. Unsure how he would orchestrate this gathering, a flicker of doubt momentarily clouded his thoughts, but he did not allow it to fester. There was no room for hesitance. This was his opportunity to engage authentically. In the days leading up to the meeting, Tyler immersed himself in their shared history, piecing together the extensive fabric of grievances that bound the miners. Through conversations with older residents and digging into archives, he illuminated the persistent injustices they had faced. Land seizures, encroachment on their rights, and the scars of neglect that were painfully familiar. On the night of the gathering, he stood in the community hall, the dim lights casting long shadows across the weathered walls. His heart raced as he scrutinized the faces drifting in, the weight of expectation settling heavily on his shoulders. What had he gotten himself into? The stillness hung thick in the air, but he resolved to be the catalyst they needed. As he stepped forward, the collective gaze of the miners commanded his attention. "Thank you for coming," he began, his voice rich with conviction. "Tonight is about you, your stories, your struggles, and your strength. Let us tear down the silence and breathe life back into our history. Together, we can find our direction amidst all this uncertainty." The murmurs began as some men shifted uncomfortably, while others appeared intrigued, leaning forward with renewed interest. This was an invitation, a chance for them to not just speak, but to truly listen to one another. Tyler found himself in a new role, one of facilitation rather than mere representation. Throughout the meeting, he moved among small clusters, capturing fragmented stories, each one revealing layers of resentment, fear, and unyielding pride. As they exchanged painful narrations, he realized that he was not just hearing their grievances. He was unearthing a collective identity that could serve as a potent foundation for their unity. Yet with each story came the weight of revelation, a deeper understanding of their emotional landscapes. The miners were now slowly recognizing that their narratives did not exist in isolation. This realization was both exhilarating and terrifying. Could he transform their collective trauma into a rallying cry? As laughter erupted at shared memories and the tension in the room began to dissipate, Tyler felt a thrill of hope blossom within him. Yet just as quickly, he knew the journey was far from complete. Could this fragile gathering hold when faced with real threats? Would the tide of trust ebb and flow as old biases threatened to resurface? Determination stole over him as the energy of the room grew palpable. He needed to follow through on this momentum. The very future of their collective fight depended on what he did next. But just as the fleeting specter of hope buoyed his spirit, the door swung open with a force that silenced the room. A figure loomed in the doorway, dark and foreboding, an echo of the encroaching adversities. The atmosphere shifted abruptly, tension constricting his chest. "Looks like you've been busy," the newcomer sneered, breaking the fragile tranquility. Tyler's heart raced. The true test was just beginning. How would he navigate this unexpected confrontation while holding the fragile bonds he had forged? Tyler squared his shoulders, locking eyes with the intruder, a mixture of fear and defiance swirling in his gut. He had anticipated opposition, but the sudden assault on the burgeoning sense of solidarity felt like a blow to the chest. "Who are you?" he asked, keeping his tone steady, though his mind raced. His heart drummed in tumult as the figure stepped further inside, eclipsing the light from the doorway. The miners' faces shifted, flickering between uncertainty and resentment. This wasn't just an interloper. This was someone who might dismantle everything he had worked toward in a matter of moments. "Names don't matter in places like this," the newcomer replied, his voice laced with an arrogant confidence. "What matters is knowing who has the power. And right now, that's not you, Tyler." They exchanged a lingering glance, communicating a shared understanding. This man was not just a stranger. He was a vessel of the very injustices Tyler had come to address. With each passing second, tension thickened in the air, wrapping around Tyler like a vice. Would he stand firm, or would he falter under the weight of a challenge that threatened to expose his vulnerabilities? He could feel the eyes of the miners piercing through him, waiting for him to bat away the storm lurking at the fringes. "Listen," Tyler said, slowing his heartbeat with deep breaths. "You may think you own this piece of ground, but tonight I isn't about power. It's about understanding." The words rolled off his tongue, the conviction breathing life into his convictions. But he knew he couldn't just speak. He had to embody that sentiment completely. The man let out a low chuckle. "Understanding? You think these people give a damn about your pretense of community? You're a puppet, and you're only here to entertain them." Hurling his words like stones, he aimed to rattle the foundations Tyler had only just begun to build. He scanned the crowd, a sinister grin spreading across his face as whispers erupted among them. The miners, once eager to share their depths, fell silent, unsure of how to navigate this encroachment. Tyler sensed their hesitation, the flicker of doubt surfacing where hope had just been ignited. He felt the urgency of the moment pressing down as the weight of confrontation forced him into a corner. Where doubt had threatened to sink his resolve, a shocking clarity emerged. He yearned to address those gathered, to crack open the door of dialogue that the newcomer sought to close. "You're wrong," Tyler shot back, his voice unwavering despite the rising tide of anxiety. "This isn't about me. It's about all of us. Why don't you put that arrogance to the side and share your truth among this crowd?" The man's expression twisted in displeasure, but Tyler saw a glimmer of surprise crystallize in the air around him. Perhaps he hadn't anticipated a challenge, especially not in front of the very people Tyler was attempting to unite. Tyler stepped closer, feeling the power of his stance. "If nothing else, let them see the truth. The power comes from the bonds we create, not the threats we wield." He recognized that this was not just a battle of words, but a crucible moment, one that required him to display integrity and resilience, qualities he had wrestled with since stepping into this chaotic landscape. With each second ticked away, it became clear. He needed to leverage this confrontation, to display undeniable courage that would spark hope amid fear. The miners observed, their collective breath hung in the space, as Tyler stood at the precipice of redefining not just his role, but theirs too. Yet, doubt still lingered like a shadow. He needed this confrontation to shift from reaction to resolution. As the silence stretched and the intensity of the moment amplified, Tyler could feel them rallying around him. What little trust had been built now rested on the brink. "I came here to support you, not to play games of power," Tyler declared, pushing against the darkness. "If there's a fight, let it be ours together." The insinuation of solidarity lifted the room and pushed back against the looming specter of opposition. But as he spoke, he caught the glint of something in the newcomer's eye, a sinister satisfaction that suggested a hidden agenda beyond mere intimidation. They were being watched, and Tyler barely began to understand the forces poised against him. Before he could gather his thoughts, the man grinned and took a step back. "Oh, you have no idea what's coming, Tyler. You're in over your head." The laughter that soon followed felt like a harbinger, an echo of the complexity of the road ahead. The challenge of uniting the miners seemed insurmountable. But now, as the nefarious presence receded, Tyler found an unexpected flicker of resolve, a reminder that real change was born through confrontation. He was prepared to rise to the occasion, but could he navigate this latest unraveling of challenges? With the road forward now more treacherous than ever, the question loomed large. Was he ready to embrace the chaos that united them all? Tyler stood at the threshold of a pivotal moment, the echoes of the intruder's laughter reverberating in his mind. The atmosphere in the room hung thick with uncertainty, yet a thread of determination began to weave through the gathered miners, igniting a subtle shift. This confrontation would not deter him. If anything, it compelled him to embrace the role of a firm yet compassionate leader, anchored in the values that had formed the foundation of his journey. "Tonight, I stood here thinking about power and control," Tyler began, his voice steady, gathering strength from the very tension that had sparked doubt moments ago. But the truth is, power is an illusion. What we need right now is unity, a shared commitment toward reclaiming our landscape from the grasp of those who threaten it. He paused, scanning the faces that surrounded him, seeking to connect. The miners had seen hardship. He understood that experience bound them more tightly than any threat from outside. They could be allies as long as he fostered trust instead of fear. What binds us here is the land we cherish, the stories that run deep in our veins. Just like you, I stand to protect my father's legacy. His dreams interwoven into every blade of grass and every note of the wind. He pressed on, weaving his narrative with theirs, clarifying his vision. Let us turn this moment into the catalyst for something larger than any single fight. Let us combine our strengths. A flicker of recognition sparked across the audience, igniting conversations among the miners, reclaiming their voices as they exchanged nods of agreement. Their stories had been tended like delicate seedlings, awaiting the right conditions to flourish into a unified front. The intruder's words may have attempted a fracture, but they provided the impetus Tyler needed to rally them forward. As he continued, he felt himself tapping into a well of confidence that had germinated along this arduous journey. Today, we're not here to entertain fear. We're here to confront the darkness, together not as adversaries but as partners in reclamation. Our collective history can forge the path ahead. With each declaration, Tyler felt the walls of uncertainty slowly crumble, a refreshing breeze sweeping through the space. In this moment, authenticity became the bridge that connected their stories, allowing trust to blossom into hope. The miners, too, were beginning to view him not merely as a leader but as a fellow warrior on their shared battlefield. Tomorrow he addressed them, his heart pounding with anxious resolve. Let us not wait for opposition to strike first. We will strategize, gather contacts, and prepare our own defenses against potential threats. Knowledge is power, and we will not be haphazard about this fight. Just as he finished, a rough hand clapped on his shoulder, and Tyler turned to find an older miner, one of the more skeptical voices, grinning widely. You might just have something here, kid. We'll stand with you. After all, it's been a long time since we had a spark to rally around. The words ignited a wave of murmurs from around the room, reinforcing the newfound solidarity that Tyler had been striving for. The miners were shifting from aloof individuals to a collective force, courageous and prepared to face the brewing storm. Yet even as triumph threaded through the air, the reality of the challenges ahead loomed large. Ty was growing stronger, yet he was reminded of the fragility of this alliance. Faith had to be nurtured. Every interaction would count toward building or dismantling what they had begun to cultivate. As they organized their plans, Tyler felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He was no longer navigating this darkness alone. With allies alongside him, he'd fortified a critical dimension of his journey, embracing unity and the shared purpose of their fight. The night melded into dawn, a reflection of his growth through adversity. No longer merely a boy attempting to save his family's ranch, Tyler had metamorphosed into a leader, one that fostered alliances with authenticity at the core. The miners, their hesitations intertwined with new bonds, rallied around him, ready to act. As they dispersed, Tyler felt a surge of anticipation. They would gather once more, forming a united front for their cause. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he had confidence rooted in the understanding of their shared purpose, which resonated louder than any threat. It would take time to build trust, time to face down the external adversities brewing in the shadows. But for Tyler and the miners, this chapter had closed with the promise of growth, transformation, and the courage to stand firm in the face of uncertainty. The newly forged essence of this compact rang through Tyler's heart like a steadfast drum, solid, unwavering, and primed for the journey ahead. To all who have navigated this emotional journey with him, the time has come to show your commitment to these transformative stories. You need to subscribe now to witness how courage shapes lives. Don't let the opportunity slip. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, supporting the journey of individuals facing monumental challenges. Comment with your reactions and theories about Tyler's incredible rise, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to feel motivated and inspired by the power of overcoming struggles. Join this community that celebrates personal triumphs and pushes for greatness.